Gittin Daf Lamed Bet Amud Bet. It's not the thought that counts. Ati dibur umevatel dibur. I would like you to notice as a derech halimud, as a way, as an approach to learning. And this piece is a good example of it. How the shiurim are based almost entirely on Rishonim. It's Gemara and Rishonim, and the Gedolei Achronim when the Achronim come to explain a Rishon. Again, a Rishon are the authorities who explain the Gemara from after the time of the Gaonim. So from about the end of the 10th century through to the time of the Shulchan Aruch. And some of the Gedolei Achronim a little bit later than that, so we're talking about 16th century. That's where the real authority of learning and understanding Gemara lies. Everything that was done subsequently was to explain and expand on them. The Chidushei Torah, the application of the learning, the insights of the learning that we gain, comes from then. You'll notice that in the Matmonim, I hardly ever quote a modern thing, and this person said that, and this person said that. And the reason is, B'chol yom yiyu b'einecha kechadashim. There needs to be a hitchadshut in learning. Learning has to be current. It has to be modern. It has to be present. It has to be in the present. It has to be today's learning. It needs to be very fresh. That's what learning is. And if all we're doing is quoting earlier sources, then we're learning from 50 years ago, or 20 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 1 year ago, or 300 years ago. We use the sources, and out of the sources we extrapolate today. It's not about quoting an extrapolation that was made in the past, because it's so important that as we learn this, we're learning it with today's lens, with today's mind, looking at the issues of today. That's the freshness, that's the B'chol yom yiyu b'einecha kechadashim, and that's v'tein chelkeinu b'toratecha. Each one of us has a chelik in the Torah. How can we have a chelik if so much has already been explained in the Torah by such unbelievable geniuses in Torah and Gedolei Yisrael, from the time of the Rishonim all the way through to the present day? What part has any of us got in v'tein chelkeinu b'toratecha, our chelik? What's our part in the Torah? Our part is learning it thoroughly through the lens and integrating it into the world in which we live. And if we're quoting somebody else, then it's their world. Even if it's in the present time, then it's their world. There's a necessity to take the material as source material and work with it, learn it, integrate it, understand it, and then apply it into our own world. And that's really what we try to do with the Matmonim. And here we're learning a situation in Gittin. We're doing a machlokes, Rav Nachman and Rav Sheshet, a difference of opinion between two Amoraim. So we're going back 1,500 years or more in understanding this piece of Gemara. But what we're looking at is something very, very current, and that is the idea that an intangible idea doesn't have value. You can't sell an idea. Nobody's going to pay you for an idea. And a tangible product is a commodity. That also doesn't have a whole lot of value over its market value. Where real value is created is where you infuse an idea into a product. So you see that in a work of art. So how can a work of art, a bit of paint on a canvas of which the total cost is a few dollars, plus the time of the artist, so that's another few $100, or maybe a few $1,000, and the piece of art sells for millions of dollars? How does that happen? That infusion of a thought, an idea, an emotion into a product is where you have the highest value being created. And we see that in the modern world of products. That's something that Steve Jobs managed to do with Apple, to infuse an emotion, a philosophy, a belief system into his product. That's what made the products different. You see it with Tesla. You see Elon Musk infusing a world philosophy into his products. And one's able to sense them. You see that there are many products that have that quality, that it's not just the tangible product, which is a commodity, not just the intangible, which is an idea, but fusing the intangible into the tangible. And the way we've understood Gittin until now, starting right at the beginning with the machlokes of whether Eidei Mesira Karti or Eidei Chatima Karti, the idea of where is the power of the get? Is it in the handing over? Is that transaction where it's at? Or is it in the writing of the get and the signing of the get? And we've talked about that. We've talked about the feelings that the writer of the get, whether it's the sofer at the instruction of the Baal, of the husband, or it's the husband himself writing it, it's that putting that emotion of separating out of a close, intimate relationship that gives the get an intangible power. This is like a work of art we've talked about. It's something that causes movement. It's not an inanimate object. It's not just a piece of data. It's so much more than that. And with that we can understand the sugya today. The question that is asked in the Gemara is chozer umegarish bo or eno chozer umegarish bo. A man gives a woman a get, and he says this get will take effect in 30 days' time. During the 30 days, he regrets and he cancels the get. Can he reuse it? Can he change his mind once again? This is a kind of a volatile man, doesn't know quite what he wants to do. So writes the get, wants to divorce her, puts it in, he knows himself, so he gives himself a 30-day cooling off period. During the 30 days, he cancels the get, and then he wants to reuse the get that he has cancelled. In other words, has the get been cancelled in and of itself, or is it just the action? We'll see in the Rashi what that means. Rav Nachman says, yes, the get is not damaged. The work of art is still a work of art. It has all the feelings in it. It has all the words. It's a kosher get. He didn't cancel the get. He cancelled the divorce, the handing over of the get. And Rav Shesha says, no, once you've cancelled the get, you've damaged the get. We paskin like Rav Nachman that you may reuse the get. It's like cancelling a check. Can you reuse the check or can you not reuse the check? Has not yet been deposited. It hasn't been used. Can I cancel it? And if I've cancelled it, can I reissue it later on, the same get, the same check? If I've decided I am going to buy the item from you and I've got a check ready made out, I cancelled it in my mind. Sure, I can use it again. Ask the more about in Kiddushin, we have a case where a woman receives Kiddushin and she changes her mind. The Kiddushin is on a 30-day time span as well. And in the 30 days, she changes her mind and says, I don't want the Kiddushin. Can he use the money again? Can he use the ring again? For that woman or for another woman? Therefore, it's speech cancelling speech. She said, yes, I accept the get. I accept the ring. Later on, she says, I don't accept the ring. So she's used speech to cancel speech. The ring has not been affected. The ring is a ring. Here, it's true that he has cancelled the effect of the shaliach, of the messenger. So he said the messenger's shlichut is no longer valid. He's no longer authorized to deliver a get to her, but he hasn't destroyed the get. And Rashi explains the differences very clearly. She accepted the kiddushin. That was speech. If you've said something, you can undo what you've said. You can say, sorry, I made a mistake. I didn't intend it. I didn't mean it. But once there's a physical object, once there's a product, you can't undo a product. And the get is a get. The get is still usable. And then we explain the difference between kiddushin and get. A very important ritvo, and I explained to you before the ritvo. Ritvo is so important also because he brings together the school, part of the whole school of the Ramban and the Rashbo in Spain, but he brings together the views of the Tosfos with the views of some of the North African Gedolei Israel, and he brings it together. And on Gittin, until the late 70s, we didn't have a ritvo. We had what is probably Rabbeinu Karkash, which was a Talmud of the ritvo. But in 1979, Mossad Rav Kook published the real ritvo from new manuscripts that were found. And in the real ritvo, if you look at the parts that I've marked in the sources, explaining the difference between Gittin and Kiddushin, he says, Yesh lo magabi get ushtar Kiddushin, kivan debaye ktiva midate debal. Listen to the words here. It's so important to understand the words. Kivan debaye ktiva midate debal. What is a get? It needs writing with the intent of the husband. A get has emotional content. A get has kavana. A get is a work of art. A get is not a piece of data. Dibur v'diburhu. Now this is dibur cancelling dibur. Kaman mash de mashvile gita ligirushibe oshtara likidushibe dibure debal. A get is like the husband talking. It's not an object, a cold clinical object. The pakid lemichtave, because he instructed it to be written. So a get is his dibur. I told the sofer, write this get. If I wouldn't have told the sofer, write the get wouldn't be valid. So I'm undoing that instruction. Even if the husband himself wrote the get, he can still cancel it. How can you cancel a product? I'm not canceling the product. Says the Ritva, an amazing chidush, I'm canceling the lishma. I'm canceling my intention. I am canceling my intention to divorce this woman. And now the get remains a meaningless product, an empty product without feeling, because I can take the feeling out of it. The get is a product dependent on thought and speech. It's not a dead product. It's not a commodity. And the husband can remove the thought and speech component from the get, and now you're just left with a piece of paper. Whatever he did with the get is now removed. And the only way he can divorce her now is by rewriting a new get with new intention and new feeling, because he's killed this get by taking its soul away. It's an unbelievable concept in the Ritva. The get it fits in so well with everything we've been learning over the last 30 daf. That the get has a soul as well, like many products, as we've said. The get has a soul. The husband can remove the soul from the get. But the ring that a man gives a woman under the chuppah, that's a ring with or without his intention. It's not his intention that makes it a ring, it's a ring. So if he cancels the wedding, or she cancels the wedding, the ring is still a valid ring. He hasn't taken the soul out of the ring. The ring didn't have any of his soul in. The ring had the soul of the jeweler in it. And the jeweler didn't take the soul out again. The ring is still a good ring. But the get is authored by the husband, and the husband removes his authorship from the get. Now the get is dead and unusable. Beautiful, unbelievable ritva. And the Ran, I've said to you and explained to you that the later generations explain the earlier generations, and that's why they're a little more lengthy. So that's why we use the later Rishonim to explain the earlier Rishonim. We use the Acharonim to explain the Rishonim. That's why on a little piece of Rambam you'll have Sforim, pages and pages written in the Acharonim to explain the little piece of Rambam. We see in Bava Basra sometimes, or in Arvei Psochim, where we have Rashi and Rashbam. Rashbam is one generation after Rashi, and Rashbam is long and Rashi is short and concise. You see there's a little bit of Ritva, but the Ran, which is who's one generation later, has the same idea and explains it in greater detail. That's the one side of saying it. Are we going to say that the husband cancels the lishmo dimension of the get? And now this is a piece of paper without lishmo, and it can't be used. It's a dead piece of paper. It's no longer a get. So he goes with the same idea. Tosfos asks an interesting question, and Tosfos with the Ran also brings this halacha. If a Sefer Torah also needs to be written lishmo. If a Sefer just writes a Sefer Torah while he's listening to music and watching TV, the Sefer Torah has no kedusha. It's not a Sefer Torah. A Sefer Torah has to be written l'shem Sefer Torah. And every name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to be written with intent in the Sefer Torah. What happens if the Sefer says, after writing it, I cancel my lishmo? Here's the Sefer Torah, but I said lishma, I'm cancelling it. Of course that doesn't work. It's a finished product. You can't cancel a product. You can cancel a thought. That's why thoughts aren't valuable. That's why nobody will pay for an idea. As a consultant, you can give somebody an idea, and a year later, as consultants do, you say, there are new thoughts in the world. What I said to you last year, now there's a new trend. There's a new mishugas in the world of business. And you completely undo what you told them to do a year ago. And the annals of consulting literature are full of theories which no longer apply. So why would I pay you for a theory that doesn't apply? But if it's in a product, the product can't be undone by a changing fad. The product's a product. And so a Sefer Torah is a product already. You can't damage the product now by taking away the lishmo. Asks Tosfos, a get is also a product. He's written the get lishmo. If you can't undo the lishmo of a Sefer Torah, how can you undo the lishmo of a get? Answers Tosfos, the kol zman shelo higia lidei ha'isha lo chashiv gemar ma'aseh. This product only becomes a product when it's given to the woman's hands. Then it becomes a get. Then it's activated. It's an unactivated product, and an unactivated product is not complete. When it's an incomplete product, you can still remove the soul. Once the product is complete and it's activated, now you can't remove the soul anymore. Steve Jobs can't come out of his grave and say, I'm removing the soul out of Apple. Elon Musk can't say, I'm removing the soul out of Teslas. It's a product, it's there. It's too late. You've put the soul in, the product's done. I've bought one, I've got it. I've got it with all that feeling and emotion you put in, you can't take it out anymore. So it is with a get. Once the product is complete, you can't take it out. And we see from here the importance of fusing the tangible with the intangible. I believe Reb Chaim Brisker said that for a person, a Talmid Chochem, if he's professional about his learning, if it's la'asok b'divrei Torah, if learning is his profession, and he doesn't write down his chidushim, It's like an accountant doing the accounts in his head and never writing them down. What's the validity? You need a tangible outcome. And it's something to remember in life. You need a tangible outcome. Love alone is not enough. You've sometimes got to give your wife a gift. You've got to do something tangible. Like Isha nikneit bekesef, b'shtar u'v'bia. They're physical, tangible expressions of love. It's not just enough to say, I love you. You've got to do something about it. And in the love for your children, you have to do something about it. And the way you care for your customers or for your employees, you have to do something about it. You've got to express the intangible emotion, thought, idea in a tangible form. That's when it becomes real. And that's, again, why I'm so indebted to all of you, both those who are sitting here and those who listen to it in the Matmonim, because this makes it tangible. If I were just learning this on my own, you learn a piece of Gemara, you have an idea, you turn the next page, you have another idea. When we make it into a product, we make it tangible, whether it's on the app or it's on the podcast or it's on YouTube. And we've got the notes that are written. It makes it into a tangible product and gives it so much more value when the tangible and the intangible are fused. And we see that even with the luchos. The Rebbeinu Shem gave Moshe tangible luchos. He didn't just teach him the Torah and say, make some notes. He gave him something physical and tangible. So important. So the tangible alone is just a commodity. An idea alone is just an idea in the wind. An idea infused into something tangible becomes something of immense value and importance.